Disney is back in the news again, and it's because they're laying off people again. It's year after year after year, they seem to be laying off more and more people as they fight park attendants and the Disney store and the box office and pretty much every front. Disney's just not catching a break. And the Snow White debacle, I don't know if that's not going to wake them up. I don't know what will. Because last I checked on IMDb, the Snow White movie was sitting at a 1.6 star rating on IMDb out of a 10-star rating. And that's probably the worst rating I've ever seen for a movie that's spent, I don't know, $100 million, let alone how much Snow White had spent. They'd spent hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars if you include advertising. They've probably spent $400-500 million on that movie at the end of the day. And for it to get a 1.6 star rating is just absolutely abysmal and comical, to be honest. So I don't know if Disney's going to get their act together, if they're going to start dropping the DEI and the wokeness and the far progressive direction that they've been tumbling down into probably since well before COVID, to be honest. I mean, Disney, they've been a pretty progressive company all along. Well, I would say liberal, probably in the classical sense, and then they started to progress into progressivism, and then it just got worse and worse. And now they find themselves in the news once again, Disney laying off hundreds in TV and film entertainment and corporate finance. And this is from June 2nd of 2025, so it's just within the last week. And major layoffs are underway Monday, the Walt Disney Company, with several hundred employees impacted globally. Deadline has learned. This is, of course, from Deadline.com. The bulk of them are across divisions of Disney Entertainment, including marketing for both film and television, as well as television publicity, casting, and development. Also affected are Disney's corporate financial operations. And according to sources of Deadline, the size of the cuts on the film and TV side of Disney Entertainment is comparable. No teams are being eliminated. The majority of the Disney Entertainment television staffers are said to be based in Los Angeles. Deadline will continue its coverage as more details about those impacted emerge during what is expected to be a tough day on the Disney campuses. And this is the fourth and largest round of layoffs in the past 10 months, just in the past 10 months. The fourth round. And I've got other rounds to show you before this round of rounds in the last year. They are a part of an ongoing cost-cutting process at the traditional media companies as they reshape their business to focus on streaming while facing economic headwinds. I don't think streaming is really going to help them, but I mean, who am I to really, suggest anything to Disney other than just dropping all the woke crap? Disney's Bob Iger set the pace upon his return as CEO, which was, I think, in 2022. Maybe it was 2021, but I think it was 2022. Establishing a goal of at least $7.5 billion in cost reductions at the start of 2023, with about 7,000 jobs eliminated that year. In early March, just under 200 Disney employees were laid off, representing almost 6% of the workforce in the ABC News Group and Disney's entertainment networks, including Freeform and FX. A big restructuring last October involved the shutdown of ABC Signature, with its operations folded into 20th Television and the consolidation of ABC and Hulu Originals scripted drama and comedy teams. It resulted in about 30 Disney Entertainment television layoffs. And in last July, DET underwent a round of staff cuts that impacted roughly 140 people, representing about 2% of the total workforce, 60 of them at National Geographic. The latest cuts followed Disney's better-than-expected Q2 earnings last month, fueled largely by experiences in sports, with streaming also delivering strong results as direct-to-consumer operating profit increased by $289 million to $336 million. At the annual shareholder meeting earlier this spring, Iger spoke about creating new jobs, largely in Disney experiences, including theme parks. The Disney layoffs also come on the heels of staff cuts at NBC Universal, as the company is spinning off several cable networks into a new company named Versant. And I don't know about the whole Disney theme park thing. I mean, they keep raising the prices. I live nearby. I live about an hour and a half from Disney World, and they're not really giving much breaks to the Florida residents, last I saw, at least not as much as they used to. It's costing a fortune. People keep complaining about that. But it's hard to make heads or tails of the park attendants, because I've read in some areas people have said that it's so jam-packed and you have to stand in line for 2 hours to get on a ride. You know, you're spending like $200 for a ticket. You're only able to get on like 5 rides a day. So, if you do the math, you're spending probably 20, 30 plus dollars per ride just to be in the Disney parks. And then I hear on the other side that the parks are empty, nobody's showing up. It's starting to turn into what looks like a ghost town, and the surrounding area in Kissimmee, their businesses are being affected by it because there's just not as many people there as there used to be. So, I don't know. I guess you just have to go and see for yourself, but from what I've heard, at least, because I haven't been to Disney since, when did I last go? I think I went in 2016. Maybe it was 2015, but somewhere around there. That was the last time that I went. And I mean, I had a good time, but Disney, it's changed quite a lot since the mid 2010s. So I've got another article, and I'm going to go back all the way back to 2021 and just show that they did a round of layoffs. Obviously, they did a big round of layoffs in 2020, just like everybody else did. I mean, everybody was furloughing employees back then, so I figured I wouldn't even start with 2020. But in 2021, according to Business Insider, in 2021, Disney World has laid off nearly 18,000 people, with thousands more placed on extended furlough, of course, because of the pandemic. The Walt Disney Company plans to lay off a total of 32,000 workers through the first half of 2021, primarily at its parks in Florida and in California. Well, I know Disney World ended up opening a lot earlier than Disneyland, and a lot of it was just because of just the political environment during COVID. Florida was obviously extremely different than California. California was just clinging on to COVID for dear life, trying to keep everything closed for as long as humanly possible. It's like an authoritarian nightmare over there. But meanwhile, over in Florida, we were only locked down for, I don't know, maybe 2 months or 3 months before they started doing these partial reopenings where restaurants were allowed to seat like 30% of their dining area, and other places, like where you go to get your haircut, or the movie theaters, other public areas, they were doing these partial reopenings and opening up in phases. It was stupid, ridiculous, whatever. Nothing should have ever closed down in the first place, but that's for another discussion. But Disney World, I think it opened something like a year before Disneyland ended up reopening. So that really helped in many ways Disney World. If they had originally built that park in California and not in Florida, then the company would have been, I don't know if I'd say they'd be in dire straits, but they would have been in a lot worse shape than they would have been otherwise. So, I mean, I know that they've had their differences with Governor DeSantis, needless to say, but I mean, they should at least be thankful for that he reopened the state early enough for them to continue operating shortly after the whole lockdown nonsense. But anyway, that comes out of 2021. And also this one does as well, May 8th of 2021. And in this article, they mentioned that 60 stores, which is the Disney store, they closed throughout North America that year in 2021. Probably affected by COVID, I'm sure. Maybe so in some places, maybe not in other places. Probably the Disney stores in Florida, at least. And what was the other? There was another state, I think it was South Dakota, that they never even locked down for not even a day. They didn't force the closure of anything. So there's probably areas in the country where the Disney store didn't really take much of a hit with regard to COVID. However, with regard to the company in general and how the public has been perceiving the Disney company in recent years, that's probably led to a lot of store closures too. So I don't know how many employees work at each Disney store. I mean, if I were to estimate, maybe 20. I don't know if 20 is probably too high, maybe 15 or 20. But anyway, if you take that number, multiply that across 60 stores, and you kind of round kind of in the middle, maybe 1,000 employees may have been laid off in Disney stores roughly in 2021. And then the next article, this is in 2022, where, let's see, Bob Chapek, he stepped down or was fired as the CEO, and Bob Iger jumped back into the role. Bob Iger had previously held the position for 15 years before stepping down from the role in 2020, opening the door for Bob Chapek to take over the job from February 2020 until February of 2022. I want to say he was fired, but I'm not 100% on that. Oh, yeah. Okay, here it is. Why Disney fired CEO Bob Chapek. Yeah, so they did. They did fire Bob Chapek. Revealed by new report, and that's from thedirect.com. And then, let's see, that was 2022 in November. And then this article is from March 27th of 2023. Walt Disney Company begins 7,000 layoffs. yet another round of thousands of employees that are laid off. So we're pretty well at the tail end, if not completely done with COVID at this point, and they're still just laying off thousands of people. And yeah, I don't think I had any details other than that, the fact that they laid off 7,000 that year. And then here on October 2nd of 2024, yet another round of layoffs is on the way for the Walt Disney Company. And yeah, I mean, they don't give an exact number, I don't believe. Oh, here, hold on. According to a new report from Variety, approximately 75 employees from Disney's ABC News and local stations will be laid off as part of the ongoing reductions at the company. This follows approximately 300 corporate employees being laid off in late September and a round of reductions at Disney Entertainment Television earlier this summer. So it's not looking like it's in the thousands of employees, but they're clearly still going in the negative direction. So Disney's not going up. Clearly, they're going down. They're not doing good. And doesn't really look like they're really changing course enough to really make a significant difference, not in a positive difference. So, and this is in March 5th of 2025, so just a couple months ago, Disney laying off nearly 200 employees across TV and ABC News, Shudder's 538 data unit. And this is on Variety.com. Obviously, they want me to pay for it, which I'm not going to. And I guess that's pretty much it. That kind of brings us up to current, to where we're at here in this Deadline article from June 2nd. So they're still laying off more people and then more people and more people. And they are a global company, so they do employ people from not just in the US, but in other countries as well. So I guess that's also to be factored in. So I'll just finish up this video with wikipedia.org. And if you haven't checked out Disney's page on Wikipedia, there's a section here called Criticism and Controversies. The Walt Disney Company has been criticized for making purportedly sexist and racist content in the past, putting LGBT plus elements in their films and not having enough LGBT plus representation. There have been controversies over alleged plagiarism, poor pay and working conditions, and poor treatment of animals. Disney has also been criticized for filming in the autonomous region of Xinjiang, where human rights abuses are taking place. And they don't mention the fact that they have hired quite a lot of predators in pedo blank blank blank. You can fill in that blank, the PDF files. They have hired quite a lot of them over the years. And Polk County, which is not the county I don't think that Disney is in specifically, but it's a neighboring county, and the sheriff of Polk County, he's pretty famous, especially in the true crime arena. He's Sheriff Grady Judd. He gives press conferences all the time. They bust PDF file rings all the time, and every time that they bust a group of people, there always seems to be at least a couple of people working full-time at Disney, or I guess even part-time too. So I just find that kind of interesting that didn't make that into their list of criticisms and controversies, but whatever. So the first one is racism. Several of Disney's films have been considered to be racist. One of the company's most controversial films, Song of the South, was criticized for portraying racial stereotypes. For that reason, the film was never released to home video in the United States or on Disney+. Other characters that have been called racist are Sunflower, a black centaurette, who serves a white senatorette in Fantasia, the Siamese Cats and Lady and the Tramp, who are considered to be over-exaggerated as Asians, stereotypes of Native Americans in Peter Pan, and crows in Dumbo, who are depicted as African Americans who use jive talk, with their leader being named Jim Crow, believed to be in reference to racial segregation laws in the United States. When watching a film on Disney Plus considered to have wrongful racist stereotypes, Disney added a disclaimer before the film starts to help avoid controversies. But with regard to the whole Dumbo thing, I mean, you might be able to make an argument that Disney was just showing the racism that's happening in America and how negatively affected that the black population is, just based on like the way that their clothes were all tattered up, I guess, or whatnot. I mean, they may have not been playing into the stereotype by putting them down necessarily. Maybe they were just trying to raise awareness. But I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen Dumbo in forever and a day. But it's a sign of the times. I mean, it's just the way the times were. I mean, you can't really jump into a time machine and just force everything to just change. But instead, they're deciding to just keep the time machine in the present and just remake everything into just ultra woke trash. So just leave the films in the past, quit remaking crap. Nobody really cares. I mean, I just think that's getting more and more obvious with each passing year. I mean, yeah, they do have some movies that are doing well, like the remake of The Lion King. I think it did insanely well, made like $1.5 billion or something like that. So, I mean, not all is lost when it comes to these remakes, but I do know if you ask the general public, I would assume that at least half of the general public would say they're kind of over these remakes. Why don't we start making some new stuff? So the next one here is plagiarism in the Disney criticisms and controversies. Disney has also been accused a number of times of plagiarizing already existing works in its films, most notably The Lion King. It has many similarities in its characters and events to an animated series called Kimba the White Lion by animator Osamu Tezuka, as well as Atlantis, the Lost Empire, also has many similarities to the anime show Nadia, The Secret of Blue Water, that were considered so prevalent. The latter show's creator, Gainax, was planning to sue Disney, but was stopped by its series network, NHK. Kelly Wilson, creator of the short The Snowman in 2014, filed 2 lawsuits, one which came after the first was rescinded, against Disney for copyright infringement in Disney's animated film Frozen. Disney later settled the lawsuit with Wilson, allowing the company to create a sequel to Frozen. Screenwriter Gary L. Goldman sued Disney over its film Zootopia, claiming he had earlier pitched an identical, same-titled story to the company. A judge dismissed the lawsuit, stating there was not enough evidence to prove any plagiarism. Disney itself is very protective about characters created by Walt Disney and require every licensee to put the Disney copyright mark on their products or packaging. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't touch that, but let's just say that wouldn't really surprise me if somebody pitched that, and if that dude actually was telling the truth. But maybe what he pitched to them was just too verbal. Maybe he didn't have enough of it in writing or something, and maybe he's just like, just give me 5 minutes and I'll tell you all about it. He goes into the office and he just tells them all about it. I mean, maybe that's the situation he found himself in, and yeah, maybe it happened. I mean, I don't know. So the next one is LGBT representation. Disney has been criticized for both putting LGBT elements into its films and for having insufficient LGBT representation in its media. In the live-action film Beauty and the Beast, director Bill Condon announced LeFou would be depicted as a gay character, prompting Kuwait, Malaysia, and a theater in Alabama to ban the film, and Russia to give it a sticker rating. In Russia and several Middle Eastern countries, the Pixar movie Onward was banned for having Disney's first openly lesbian character, Official Spectre, while others said Disney needed more representation of LGBT persons in its media. Don't forget the movie Lightyear, when Buzz Lightyear was apparently gay. I didn't see it, but apparently Buzz Lightyear is gay now. Because of a scene featuring 2 lesbians kissing, Pixar's Lightyear, there it is, was banned in 13 predominantly Muslim countries. Okay, so 2 lesbians kissing. I thought Buzz Lightyear like kissed a guy character or something. Obviously, I didn't see it. So, I don't know. I guess scratch that. In a leaked video of a Disney meeting, participants talked about pushing LGBT plus themes in the company's media, angering some people who say the company is trying to sexualize children, while others applauded its actions. Yeah, that's, in my opinion, that's exactly what they're doing. They're sexualizing children because LGBT in general is highly sexualized. Not that, you can naturally produce any kids from those relationships, but whatever. It's for another story. You can do whatever you want behind closed doors. You can marry whoever you want, even if it's not behind closed doors. I don't care. We're supposed to live in a free country where you can do reasonably whatever you want as long as it doesn't negatively affect other people around you. So moving on to sexism, some Disney princess films have been considered to be sexist toward women. Snow White is said to be too worried about her appearance, while Cinderella is deemed to have no talents. Aurora is also said to be weak because she is always waiting to be rescued. In some of the princess films, men have more dialogue and there are more speaking male characters than female. Disney's more recent films are considered to be less sexist than its earlier films. I wonder if that's actually true, though. I mean, like the early Disney films, all across Disney films, I've always viewed them as being more feminine than masculine, without any doubt. I mean, a lot of their earlier films focused around princesses. But according to this, the male characters have more speaking roles. I know there's supporting characters in certain movies, even the animal ones like Bambi and whatnot. So I don't know if you throw all that in and you put it all together, maybe the male characters might have just a little bit more. But I somehow doubt that Disney went way out of its way or focused that carefully on it just to, give women just that one extra jab. Like, no, you're not going to get anything more than men, not even in Disney. Whatever. And finally, we've got animal cruelty and working conditions. In 1990, Disney paid $95,000 to avoid legal action over 16 animal cruelty charges for beating vultures to death, shooting at birds, and starving some birds at Discovery Island. I've never even heard of this. The company took these actions because the birds were attacking other animals and taking their food. Okay, well then enclose the enclosures better. Make it so the birds can't swoop in from overhead. I mean, I'm sure that there's zoos, city zoos and whatnot. They probably do and deal with similar things all the time. You've got wildlife in the area. Wildlife sees food laying on the ground. They're going to try to snatch it up. I mean, can you blame them? So anyway, let's see. When Animal Kingdom first opened, there were concerns about the animals because several of them died. Animal rights groups protested, but the U.S. Department of Agriculture found no violations of animal welfare regulations. Disney has been accused of having poor working conditions. A protest by 2,000 workers at Disneyland in 2022 accused the company of poor pay at an average of $13 an hour. Okay, so we're moving into working conditions, not we're past the animal cruelty part at this point. While some saying they were evicted from their homes. Like, dude, if you're only getting paid $13 an hour and you don't want to get paid $13 an hour, then quit. Go work somewhere else who's going to value you more than that. That's how much Disney values you. They value you as a $13 an hour employee. And if you want to be valued at a higher pay rate, then you have to go and find somebody who will value you for more than that. But that's coming from somebody who believes that the minimum wage should be flat zero. Because if you're willing to work for $0 an hour, basically volunteering, then why should the government step in to make sure that does or doesn't happen? I mean, like, if somebody's going to work for $3 an hour, I mean, why is that any of your business anyway? I mean, we've already got laws in place, like child labor laws. I mean, there's people that are not allowed to work if they're below a certain age, or children. And I mean, minimum wage, I know there's arguments for it, arguments against it. I think the federal minimum wage, so the last I checked, was like either $7.25 an hour or $7.75 an hour. And that minimum wage, as well as all minimum wages across all 50 states, are not geared toward people who are supposed to be supporting a family. That's not what minimum wage is for. Minimum wage is for high school workers, paper boys, like baggers at grocery stores, just the very bare minimum level of work that very young people, mainly teenagers, those are the jobs that they get that are paying minimum wage. And that's just simply the way it should be. I mean, if you're married and you've got 2 kids or 3 kids and you're trying to support a sizable family, even if you're just trying to support, the man or woman that you're with, you really can't do that on a minimum wage job. And minimum wage jobs were never designed to support families on that one single income. It was just never designed to be that way. You just got to build up your skill set and get more experience in, whatever area that interests you. And that's what you go for. But anyway, I'll digress. In 2010, at a factory in China where Disney products were being made, workers experienced working hours 3 times longer than those prescribed by law, and one of the workers committed suicide. And it sounds similar to that one place that Apple had people making iPhones, and they had those suicide nets around the building. I mean, I don't know if that's the same building or if that's even in the same area of China, but I mean, that actually kind of surprises me that China's got laws against laws that protect people from working long hours, and they're saying that people were working 3 times longer than the law allowed, unless they're talking about U.S. law, but they can't be because it says it's a factory in China. But anyway, I thought I would go over that, like some of these controversies that Disney was involved with, just because I was just going through those news articles with regard to the layoffs over the last few years. And I thought I would just check Wikipedia to see if maybe they'd make my job a little easier and if they would list the rounds of layoffs that have been occurring since whatever year. And I didn't find that on Wikipedia, but I did find those controversies and figured I'd talk about it for a minute. So anyway, that's all I got. See ya.